Hey, what's up, and welcome back to Crypto Degen Zoe. Already uploaded a video today, and this one is last minute and impromptu. But it's because something upset me. Someone sent me a message and saying that they had already lost all their money and they already got wrecked because of people they were listening to. The money that they plan to invest for this, pretty much this cycle. Not all of it, but a lot. They're gonna have to do some rebuilding. And I know they were telling the truth because they didn't ask me immediately about any picks or plays or about getting a discount to the Patreon because they're broke. So this is not clickbait. This is a serious video. Try to get through these points. It's last minute. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to hit everything, but I want to talk about a couple of things that people go through when they're going through the first cycle and sometimes second cycle or third cycle. Number one, and I don't really have these numbers numbered in any particular order, but being early does not always feel good. That's number one for me. And like I said, this is last minute, so I'm going to try to put maybe something over my face as I'm talking to show you. Ideally, like where we got in G Swift and where we got in Neon EVM. Person I was helping in the beginning, they were looking at G Swift and Neon EVM when we got in. Then we got in early. Neon we got in like August, way before people were talking about it. We got that on, like, I think it was called altcoin global or something. Like when we got there, the website was all in Chinese, and I had to use Google Translate to figure out even how to switch it to English. So that's how early that's like the only exchange I saw it on at the time, and maybe another exchange that you had the KYC for. I can't remember. I don't know. But we got it on a hot coin. So it was already this kind of like sketchy exchange to us. But I believed in the project that I knew was going to be good. And so we got in there early. G Swift the same. Nobody was talking about G Swift. And I'm not trying to say that in a way like, oh, we're the smartest ones and we were first or whatever. Because I'm pretty sure maybe somebody like talked about it, you know. But I'm saying it wasn't big. A lot of people weren't talking about it. And so when we got in, it was sitting at, both of them were sitting at the same price for probably a month or 2 months each. Like 2 months the price was sitting there, and at the time he's getting back in the market. He got wrecked last cycle, and so he's like, man, I'm trusting Zoe to, like, you know, help me this cycle or whatever, but his plays aren't moving, everything is flying, and I'm trying to tell him just be patient. You know, sometimes you're early to a project and it just sits there, and like I said, we got in there and the prices just sat for like 2 months. But when they took off, like G Swift went from, like, we got in at 4.5 cents and it went up to like 80 cents. So that's about a 20x. It's retraced now, so I think it's about 15x now. It's about 60 cents. Neon EVM we got in around 6 cents, and that at one point, like I said in the video earlier, we were up 60x. I think we're still up like 50x now. It's about $3. We got in at 6 cents and it's at $3 now. And so from August till September, October, Neon didn't even move. It's probably like October or November before Neon even started moving and other people started talking about it. So number one, it doesn't always feel good to be early, even though a lot of people gloat about that. I was early, I was one of the first ones. In that beginning, it doesn't feel good. So you have to make sure you have conviction in the plays that you're getting into. And this is one I'm going to talk about a while. And yeah, a lot of people are scared to talk about this. I said this in other videos. They're scared to talk about Patreons, but I'm not a scammer. I'm not a used car salesman. I don't use people, you know, for their money. So I'm not afraid to talk about the whole Patreon thing. What I use my Patreon for is to fund my research, because I am full-time crypto. And so I don't even believe my price is that big for, you know, what you get in my group, and how I'm finding these picks early is before people are talking about them. Like one of my picks, I think I just saw 2 people just starting to talk about it, and I've already been talking about it for 2 months in the Patreon group, and it's going to be a pretty big project. 2 others, I only seen like 2 YouTubers talking about them. I have 2 others that I've heard like nobody talk about them except people who were like deep into tech. Like they're not YouTubers who are like promoting different cryptos that you can buy and make money off. These are people that are just in tech, and they're just like, hey, I like this tech, and it's like a bunch of tech nerds or whatever you want to call them. And that's not derogatory, I'm just saying, you know, but like not talking about them, like promoting them as projects. And I believe one of them is going to be, I mean, gargantuously huge and nobody's talking about it. So that's what you're paying for a Patreon. You know, you getting these Patreons, and I'm just being honest, because I've been in them, you know, in cycles before I decided to do this myself. And you're in the Patreon, and this is everybody's Patreon, everybody's YouTube talking about the same projects. Like, okay, like I invested in them. I'm not knocking them, but okay, I'm all right. GFAL, Miria, I know, like everybody's talking about them. What new projects do you have? Do you know how to actually find alpha? And then you have people to say like, oh, the alpha's just in the group. Okay, prove it, you know? So make sure you're in groups that actually know how to find alpha. And I'll say this, pumping microcaps does not count. If all the picks they're ever finding are under 1 million market cap, you may end up getting wrecked. And I'm going to explain that because I've been through 2 full cycles already. So especially last cycle when there were new, a lot more plays, you would have these micro caps that people would find, and they would shield them to people, and it would do a quick 10x in the maybe the bear market at the beginning of the bull. And so they promised people like, this is going 100x or 1000x. That entire cycle, from the moment that they mentioned it to the end of the cycle, some of those projects only did a 12 or 15x or whatever. And so a lot of people don't realize you're in a pump and dump group. You're like, but there's so many people in here, it's got to be good. Not necessarily. The alpha is not always where the crowd is. I learned that because I did get wrecked a lot trying to follow that ideology. Well, if there's a lot of us in here, then it must be good. Which brings me to my next point that I've heard no one talk about this. A lot of times when you have these Patreon groups that are pump and dump or whatever, or just pumps or whatever, and what they don't realize is it's only that Patreon's group's money that is in that project. So they're sitting in the Patreon because the Patreon leader told them that it was going to skyrocket, and they're waiting for other people to invest in the project so the price goes up, but nobody else ever invests in the project because it's not really a good project. And that project will sit there the entire bull run, and they're thinking like people are going to come along and pump our bags. No, they're not. You know, you just got in the micro cap at $200,000 and it went to 2 million or maybe even 5 or 10 million, and you made a lot of X's or whatever. For one, those are unrealized gains if you don't take profits. So you better make sure the Patreon people and the people you're listening to about projects are not just using you for exit liquidity. And I'm just being honest, this is stuff people don't want to talk about. So yeah. So with the Patrons, what people do is because you're on this like 30-day subscription, they feel like they have to prove themselves and make themselves look good to you quickly, so you stay on for the next month. So that's why they find these microcaps that are $200,000, $300,000. They pump them up real quick, and you're like, this person knows what they're talking about. I made a 10x. I didn't make any money last cycle. I got wrecked, but I just made a 10x already in the bear market. Not all the times those projects are good or are going to continue to run. Sometimes it's just you and that Patreon group holding it, and it's just sitting at 15 million market cap for months and months and months and months and never moves. So it's easy if you don't know a lot about crypto and you're coming into this space. It's easy for people who have been in the space a little bit of time to sound like geniuses when they're talking about this. And a lot of people do try to do that. They try to sound smart, and it makes you believe it. Like, man, they sound smart when they talk about this stuff, so they must know what they're talking about. It's not always it's not always the situation. I talked about, sometimes projects 10x and never move again. I already talked about the Patreon groups are the only ones that are holding a certain crypto. And so, one of the guys in our group, he says like, why aren't you making another video on G Swift for the projects that you talked about? I feel like my projects are good, and they're going to shield and pump themselves. I don't have to continually to pump them all the time, and I will make follow-up videos, but I don't have to keep pumping my projects. They're going to pump themselves. I don't have to keep posting them on every YouTube video and tagging everything on Twitter. These are good projects that we're picking, and I will, I'm not afraid to talk about anything. Like I know one of the picks, one of the first videos I made was about Sophiaverse, and Sophiaverse has not moved a lot, right? But I'm not afraid to talk about that. I'd still believe that in the bull run, Sophiaverse is going to move, because this cycle is a lot different, and a lot of people are saving their marketing for when the bull run starts, because this bull run is starting much faster than the other ones. Like, we should technically be still being able to accumulate until next fall, and usually prices don't really move to after the halving, and they really move like next fall. But that has not been the case this cycle. The prices are moving like crazy. So people will switch their marketing tactics. I believe Sophiaverse is still going to move. And if a person loses conviction in a project, and I see like maybe it's not going to move, I'm not going to be like, no, you got to hold it because I said it was good, So yeah, I think Sophiaverse is the only one that really hasn't moved as much as we would have hoped it has. But all the other things I've talked about, and they're moving. So yeah, I don't have to pump my bags. They're gonna pump themselves. How to find good cryptos? Find cryptos you believe in, cryptos you understand. Like when I tried to explain Connect's network earlier today, so people understand what they're investing in if they decide, not financial advice. Find cryptos with a great community. Find cryptos with a low market cap with big upside. Whether you want to find them under 200 million market cap, 100 million, 50 million. I'm crazy. I find some under 5 million. Some I do find under a million if they're good. But I'm not micro cap hunting. I'm not market cap or micro cap hunting. Just because it's a low market cap doesn't mean you're going to get 1,000x all the time. So I wish people would stop believing that and kind of preaching that. Find a crypto with a good narrative. Like crypto gaming is a big narrative. Interoperability is a big narrative this cycle. So find those cryptos. And another thing, VCs are not bad. A lot of people have started this cycle like talking like VCs are bad and they're just going to pump and dump on you. That's not true. They want to make money too. VCs are the ones that are going to market your crypto and make sure it gets out there and that people know about it. So that's not always a bad thing. You want good VCs behind a project, especially if it's like Coinbase Ventures, like we talked about earlier. Projects that have influencers talking about them are not always bad. A lot of them do pump and dump, so you got to be careful. That's why you got to be in the right Patreons and right groups. And keep up with your projects. That's another point. Don't just invest in something and be like, okay, I'm just waiting for the 1,000x. Keep up with the project. Make sure no one's running off with money. Make sure they're still working on the project. So don't just buy a project and forget it. Buy the red, not the green. A lot of people like to buy when the prices are going up because they're like, oh my gosh, it's going to the moon. But when you go to the mall to buy clothes, you buy stuff when it's on sale. You don't go when they double the price, So learn to buy the red and not the green. If you have conviction in the project and you believe it's going somewhere, you should be happy to find it and buy it on sale. Another main point, I'm going to talk about trading and I'm almost done here. I used to hear George say this from Cryptos R say this a lot last cycle, and people used to think it was such boring advice and it was lame or whatever. But he used to say, if you're not a trader, don't trade. The people who make the most money are the ones that hold. Because a lot of people are like, I made 200% on this project. Now I'm going to move in this project that's moving and get another 200%. And they feel like they're geniuses or whatever. When if you would have just held the one project that you believed in, you probably would have made, where you made a 4x with your money, you probably made a 10 or 12x if you just held. So if you don't know how to trade, don't try to trade. A lot of people get wrecked trying to trade because they jump into another project and then that goes down. And so they're actually losing money. And speaking of trading, I see people like, they'll see a big influencer be bullish one day and then bearish the next day. And they'll say, well, how are you bullish today and then you were bearish tomorrow or today or whatever, right? That's because they're longing and shorting the market. They're trading. They've already put in a long before they came to their channel or whatever and told you, it's crazy. You got to buy a lot of it because it's going to go crazy. They'll come back the next day and be like, maybe you should sell it. You should sell it. That's because they've already put their short in, and you can make money both ways in the market. So be careful with that. It's some crypto influencers that I like that do it. So it's not always your enemy. You just got to know when they're playing the game. So find a good project you believe in and just hold it and, wait for the bull run and, learn how to take profits on the way. It's not always the biggest Patreons that have the alpha. I've seen plenty of groups that have 200 and 300, 500 and, members, and they're all talking about the same things that other channels are talking about. There's no new alpha, no good projects coming through. So it's not always the big groups. It's not always where the crowd is at. And I'm not just saying that because my group is small right now. I tell people all the time, I'm going to make money regardless, but I really do want to help people make life-changing money this cycle. So, I think that's all my notes. It was kind of last minute. I'm pretty sure I did miss some stuff that's important to know, but these are things that you should know, and hopefully you realize by now that it wasn't clickbait. Thank you for watching my channel again, and I'll see you next time. Hopefully I'll be live streaming soon, so yeah.